Let's take a look at creating our first effect inside of the shaders editor. We're going to combine layers, we're going to nest, we're going to stack, and we're going to create something new, something that's never been created inside of shaders before. Here I have an empty canvas, just wide empty, no layers, no components. So let's go ahead and add something to the screen. Down here in the insert toolbar, I'm going to click on textures. Now this opens up all of the base textures, and typically you want to start with either a texture or you could drag in your own image. You want to start with some sort of pixels rendered to the screen. It could be anything though. In this case, I'm going to start with just a multi-point gradient, which renders 5 points to the screen, each with their own color, and you can just kind of move those points around. I'm not going to be hyper specific here. Let me just go ahead and hit randomize color, and we'll see what we get after hitting that a few times. I'm also going to change the color space just to improve the blending a little bit. We'll hit it a couple more times. Actually, that's nice. That to me feels kind of nice. Maybe I change this blue to more of a turquoise. Yeah, that's sort of this greeny turquoise with a blown out highlight in the middle. Works really nice for a gradient. So this is the first layer in our layer stack. And the layer stack works like the DOM works. It works top down. So in this case, the gradient is our background layer. It's our starting point. Now let's apply actually, let's add another layer on top. We'll do a shape effect. There's a bunch of different shape effects we could do. I'm going to pick, we'll pick holographic. That's a fun one. It's supposed to look like a sort of holographic-y sticker. This is one of our shape effects, and we'll have another video later on explaining all of the shape effects. But I'm going to go ahead and just set up some properties of this here. I'm going to pick a 3D pyramid. That might be a nice shape. I'm going to use the drag handles in the editor to make our pyramid a little bit larger. That's not bad. I feel like I may want to tweak the height a little bit. Maybe that rotation on the z-axis. And there you go. So now we've got a pyramid over a multi-point gradient background. The way that works, like I mentioned, the gradient is now in the background. It's the first layer in the stack. Then we have this holographic shape effect on top, and we can control that, and it will render on top of the background. Now let's show you the effects of adding stylization, of adding effects to this. I'm going to go to our stylize category. We have a bunch of different fun things we could do here, but one that's really just obvious to call attention to is ASCII. You're probably familiar with the ASCII effect. It's replacing the pixels with ASCII characters. You can choose fonts, you can choose what characters, but here you go. We've just applied ASCII. Effects, stylizations, distortions, blurs, they will impact everything proceeding at the sibling level. So what that means is ASCII is going to impact both holographic and multi-point gradient because it's below both of those, and they're all at the same level. We haven't got to nesting yet, but in a moment we will. So ASCII right now impacts everything in front of it. If I wanted the ASCII to only impact this holographic pyramid, well, how would we do that? And the answer comes back to what I just said, nesting. So what I can do is I can take holographic and I can drag it inside of ASCII. And now you'll see that our ASCII effect is only applied to the pyramid. I am going to go ahead and probably just, I don't know if I want to change the colors. Maybe I will. There you go, just so we can actually see the pyramid a little bit better in this preview. But there you go. We've got a multi-point gradient that does not have an ASCII effect applied. Then we have our ASCII, and because ASCII has child content, it has this holographic, it's only going to apply to that. Works really, really well. So that's that. Let me add a text layer real quick. I'm going to just hit the text option, and I'm going to say, hello world. And I've just typed text onto the screen. I am a fan of the Geist font at the moment. I'm sure a lot of people are. I'm going to just play with some of these settings, make a nice big... Actually, I think we have Geist Pixel now. There you go. We've got a nice pixel effect going on. And I'm going to drop that. I'm going to line that in the center. There we go. And I'm going to drop that between multi-point gradient and ASCII. And it might be hard to tell. Let me zoom in. But the ASCII is rendering on top of the hello world text. So if I drop that down to a blue, to a very dark blue, you will see ASCII rendering on top of the actual text. Now, I could move this text into the ASCII parent, and suddenly it would be part of the ASCII effect, right? It would actually apply and be rastered into that. So now, because, that's just dark text, it's actually cutting into our triangle and creating this interesting look. And I could play with this, with the cell size, to potentially make that show up a little bit more visible. Let me see that. Something like Hello World, where you can kind of see the dots and it's cutting into our triangle. I'm quite happy with that. To be honest, I'm liking the way this is looking. And this is really how you compose shaders inside of Shader Effects to create something new. All we've done is we've added a gradient in the background. We've added a couple of layers that we're going to apply an ASCII effect to, and we've wrapped them in the ASCII tag, and that gives us this cool effect. Now, you could also go as far as applying distortion. For example, I could apply a page peel distortion, which applies to the entire page and move that away. Remember the nesting thing? I'm going to drag ASCII, which will drag all of its children into that page peel hierarchy. And now when I page peel, only the ASCII layer is peeling away. And so you can come up with some really interesting things. A fun part of this, which we're going to get to in the export tutorial later, if I go into export and I show the code for this, you'll notice if I come down here to the page peel component, where is it? There's holographic, there's text, there's page peel. Amount is just a property value 0.3. And so that's because, well, I just left it in the prop panel was 0.3. If I wanted to take that and use GSAP or use Motion or any other animation library, or just use a request animation frame if I feel like it, I could animate the amount of the page peel, and I could have layers of the shader peel away. I could change the density of the ASCII effect. I could change the text, right? The text is just an input to that component code. If I come back in here, go to text, and you'll see, there you go, text is hello world. So you could change that dynamically at runtime. You could have it say, hello, John, right? It introduce the user in the shader itself, and it's all rendering web GPU side. It's high performance, and it's definitely going to work really well in the browser. So that is how you compose effects inside of the design editor, by stacking and by nesting from the top down in DOM order. In the next video, we're going to take a look at masking and blending, which gives you even more control over how this whole thing works. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you in the next one.